Hello, I'm Nicole Nunez and welcome to the A-List. With me on today's show is a woman who has won multiple Emmy Awards for her ABC TV segments, One Tank Trips, and is the producer of ABC's Special Faces of Inspiration. Please welcome my guest, ABC News traffic anchor, Ms. Roz Varon. So how was your process into ABC? How did that all go together?
Well, it was kind of an interesting situation. I've been there for 23 years. Oh. I know, right? And when they hired me specifically for the morning show. Prior to March of 1989, the only morning news, at least on ABC 7 in Chicago, were just the little news briefs during the network show Good Morning America. Actually, all of the stations. Nobody had like a full morning newscast. Yeah. So they decided that they wanted to start a half-hour newscast from 6:30 to 7. They wanted to incorporate traffic. And all of the people who auditioned for this came from radio because nobody had done traffic and TV before. Yeah. It was kind of a new concept. And when they brought me in, because I had been doing traffic and radio for 10 years prior, I'm from this area and I knew traffic really well. Yeah. So I auditioned. They said that was really nice, but thanks but no thanks. You're too green for TV, and they didn't hire me. So I went back and I thought, wow, I was really, upset, naturally. And I thought, well, wait a minute. All the other people who auditioned for this came from radio, so who's my competition? Exactly. Me. I mean, they're all just as bad as I was. So I went back and I made another audition tape, and I had a better idea of what they were looking for. I stood out over an expressway, like I have done many, many times, and I did some in-studio things, and I had a big map. Now this was like a paper map, a cardboard map that somebody drew for me, very much like the chroma key maps that I use today. Yeah. And I sat there and I pointed to these maps and did some traffic and came back and wrote this very eloquent letter and said, look, I understand, I don't have the same type of experience as your other anchors and reporters, but I know traffic extremely well, and I guarantee you that I will, in a matter of short amount of time, be just as smooth as they are on the air. And lo and behold, they hired me.
Well, did they give you a call or send a letter?
No, they called me. I was at the radio station, and they paged me and said, you've got a call, and I'm sitting at my desk waiting to go on the air, and I get this call from the general manager from ABC at the time, Joe Ahern, and he said, be careful what you wish for. I'm going to offer you a job.
Wow, that's cool.
I was like, ah. So they trained me for a week, and they said, as long as you're going to be doing traffic, we're also going to give you the transportation beat, and we're going to train you to be a television reporter. Wow. So they gave me on-the-street training. I shadowed Alan Kraszewski for a week. Cool. And within 5 days, I was doing my first live shot over the Dan Ryan.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
Rapid pace fire. Yeah, rapid fire pace.
And when you got the call that you got the job, who were the first people that you called to tell them?
My mom.
How did she take it?
She was thrilled.
Wow. Absolutely
thrilled. Yeah, I mean, that was it was a very exciting time in my career because it was just a major, break into something brand new.
When did you decide that you wanted to go from traffic into other segments like One Tank Trips?
Well, in the beginning, doing the reporting, covering all of the different transportation stories was fun and interesting. But then I started to try and, push the limit a little bit. It's like, okay, let's see if I can do like a fall colors travel story. It's still transportation, right? And that's kind of how it started. So you had to drive somewhere to get to this destination. So I started doing these fall colors trips every year. And then I thought, why not do summer travel, spring destination, winter fun? Yeah. And I started doing seasonal things. And the one tank trip concept came about really during the recession when gas prices spiked. Yeah. And people were looking for staycations or just, driving trips that weren't very expensive. Yeah. So we decided to do, kind of a spin on my other travel pieces, and that's how that all came about.
Was there anyone who helped you, lead you in that direction with One Tank Trips?
The news director came up with the phrase One Tank Trips, but it really was an extension on what I had already been doing, just putting a different spin on it to make it a little bit more applicable to what was happening in the news at the time.
Yeah. And when is it shown? Is it still on TV right now?
You can see them online. Just Google Roz Varon, One Tank Trips, and you'll find them. But they're on the ABC7 website. You can find them there.
Okay. And for Faces of Inspiration, you're a co-producer of that, or so?
Right. I am a breast cancer survivor. It will be, let's see, 6 years in July since I was diagnosed.
Wow.
So I decided that I thought being healthy for as long as I have been, it would be nice to kind of give back to the community by putting together an informational special and talk to other survivors. And that's pretty much how it came about. It's a lot of work to put together a half-hour show.
Yeah.
So I work with Holly Gresham, who is in our programming department and works on a lot of the other shows that we do, the 190 North segments and things like that. So she was, I guess, assigned or volunteered or whatever to co-produce these with me. She came up with some ideas of people who we would talk to. I came up with some ideas. We also worked with the news director and the general manager at the time, Emily Barr. Jennifer Graves, our news director, and everybody had like a little bit of input on how they wanted this to go, and we ended up interviewing, like, I want to say, like maybe 5 different people. We did 2 faces of inspiration, faces of courage, faces of strength was the first one, and talked to different people about their experience and how they, you know, used that experience, that journey, to help other people. Yeah. So they were very inspirational stories.
Were there any that you have in mind right now, like that really inspired you? Would you care to share?
I really want to do another special this year. I didn't do one last year because I just, it was a very busy time in my life, and it, like I said, it takes a lot of time to put together a show like that. But once we get through NATO and things kind of slow down a little bit, I'll have some more time to try and come up with some ideas. Now, these things air in October because that's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So you can imagine if we're in May starting to think about where we want to go with this, how much time it takes and pre-production to go out and interview the people and shoot the video that goes with the story, then actually sit down and write it and then come up with, you know, the different ways to put it together and so on and so forth. But yeah, I have some ideas.
Okay. And you're not only doing the One Tank Trips and Faces of Inspiration, you're involved in Girl Scouts.
I have been involved in Girl Scouts since my daughter was in 1st grade. She's a sophomore in high school now. Unfortunately, once she got into high school, she decided she wanted to go into some other things, some other areas, and there just wasn't enough time for that. But I'm still very active with Girl Scouts of Chicago. When they need me to participate in certain things and talk to some girls or troops, I'm always available to do that. It's a wonderful organization, and it really does help girl power. Yeah. I mean, really, right now they're in the process of trying to focus on education and math and science strengths and different careers for girls that go in those areas. And, you know, just to show that just because you're a girl doesn't mean that you can't have these high aspirations, you know, which is a wonderful thing.
And so you feel it's like a big importance to be in Girl Scouts or support it or help it?
I do. I think it's very beneficial. I think that it's so much more than just selling cookies and, you know, arts and crafts. You think Girl Scouts, you think Thin Mints, right? Or you think, oh, my daughter's a Girl Scout and she's making arts and crafts. Well, yeah, those are fun things, and selling cookies teaches a lot of really responsible things, but there's so much more to it than that, and I would recommend it to any parent who has a daughter or any kid who's interested in seeing the world. It's a wonderful organization.
So you have a blog?
I do.
Is it personal or is it more like for work?
It's both. It's work related because it's on the ABC7 website. It's called Roz on the Road, but I can really write about anything. I call my little blogs On the Road too. So it could be a travel piece. I traveled to Israel over winter break, and I traveled to Ireland over spring break. Wow. So I did a lot of On the Road to Jerusalem, On the Road to Dublin, and just talked about my experience there and shot some pictures, some stills, some video, shared that with people who read the blog. That was a lot of fun. But I do other things like On the Road to Thanksgiving, On the Road to Breast Cancer Awareness. Really, it's a very generic type of thing. So I can write about personal things. I write when I'm inspired.
That's great. Well, thank you, Roz, for coming on the show. And learning more about your position at ABC7. I'm Nicole Nunez, and thank you for watching The A-List.